Now, technology may be the key to combating COVID-19, but what could it mean for our privacy? Governments are desperate to keep infection rates low and prevent future outbreaks. And contact tracing technology is thought to be the answer. Well, Singapore's TraceTogether app has been quite successful already, and other nations are following suit, including India, China, and the UK. But while this technology may help ease lockdown restrictions, they require vast amounts of personal data to work, and our next guest fears they could be misused by those in power. Aamer Anwar is a human rights lawyer, and he joins me now from Glasgow. Good to have you back on the Newsmakers. So track and trace keeps people safe, keeps people healthy, helps us stay ahead of the virus. Is your big worry, but then what?
Well, I beg to differ from the government. I mean, the Joint Committee on the Human Rights has already said you need to have essential legislation to be enacted to ensure that mass surveillance of personal data doesn't result in violation before the trial is rolled out. There's a huge question mark over this as well, that 20% of UK society doesn't have smartphones, for instance. So does that mean the vulnerable, the weak, the poor, elderly, minorities will be not part of this system, which then leaves a loophole and also leaves the added danger of this sort of sense of complacency, thinking that we've got this contact tracing. The other issue arises, of course, especially with the UK government, is who are they rolling this contract out to? How have they ensured that personal data will not be shared? We've had so many instances of in the past where the data has been shared. Organizations and companies have had the information hacked, and we're talking about personal. When they say there's anonymity attached to this, there's no anonymity. Once the data is shared with the data controller, the anonymity ends. You're talking about confidential patient data. And some concerns of like computer savvy people have raised the question that it would be an easy option for people with Bluetooth to design an app to be able to tell you if somebody sitting next to you, for instance, in a cafe, actually has coronavirus or not.
So what do you want them to do? Do you want them to make the argument for why this is, potentially good, to explain the technology with transparency, and then to have a debate about it so you can legislate and regulate?
Well, but yes, they need to make the argument, first of all. They can't just rush this through. Far too often we've seen this UK government talking about rushing things through. I mean, it was only several weeks ago where they said you didn't need to have quarantining people arriving back in the UK, and now all of a sudden quarantining is good advice. Before they said there was to be no masks, and now they say masks are required to be introduced. They have to get their acting together. I mean, the reality of it is that probably up to 60,000 people have died in this country because of COVID-19, and that's due to the incompetence of this government. It's almost as though this government is doing knee-jerk reactions and trying to sort of get itself ahead of the curve and try and introduce sort of headline sound bites in order to be able to say to the people that they're doing something without actually thinking through what the reality is. Crucial. Privacy is crucial as parts of the human rights of British citizens. And secondly, because you need safeguards, and they haven't come up with the issue. They have not responded to concerns of various individuals and organizations. Said, what about the safeguards? If you could rush through the COVID-19 bill in the space of 2 days, then surely they could put their minds to the legal safeguards that should be introduced in order to ensure that the data is not shared, that personal data is not shared, that people are protected, and answer the question, what do you do with 20% of the country that don't have a smartphone? Does that mean that we will not know about the 20% of people that we come into contact with that may be able to spread COVID-19? And then you could have, the second spike, which has been predicted to happen as a result of the incompetence, the lack of PPE, and all the other issues that have gone with this scandal that is coronavirus.
Yeah, all major questions regarding civil liberties and privacy here. Aamer, we don't have much time. I just want your very short reaction to something that I came across in Bloomberg in doing my research for this segment. Today, news, Peter Thiel, Britain's NHS allowed secrets of US technology company Palantir Technologies, Inc., access to sensitive personal data of patients, employees, and members of the public under a deal to help it cope with the COVID-19 outbreak. I just got that from Bloomberg today. That was released a few hours ago. Peter Thiel's company doing business with the NHS. Nobody knew about it beforehand. Your reaction to that?
Well, the government has not been transparent, they've not been accountable, and that's one of the central concerns here, that the government are doing dirty deals behind closed doors, and there is no transparency and accountability. And people of this country need to know that their data isn't being shared, it isn't being sold on to other companies to be able to use and for them to profiteer. That was one of the concerns that we had about post-Brexit, whether this government, with the Americans, companies, corporations will use the opportunity to open the door and to be able to sort of farm out private patient data and to then be able to contact them and for us to be bombarded. That's the central concern is why the mad rush? Why are they trying to use COVID-19 as, they haven't had a mad rush over COVID-19 for anything else, but all of a sudden on this issue, they're sort of trying to railroad it through without any checks and balances. I don't trust this government on anything, and I don't think the vast majority of people in this country actually trust the words that comes out of their mouths.
Aamer Anwar, really good to have you back on the Newsmakers. Thank you very much for joining us.
You're welcome.